I would like to introduce our next presenter, Tia Johnson, and she's going to tell you her story and how she intends to become a true business person and someone that's going to share her knowledge and experience to expand her business and to offer employment opportunities and career paths to those that need to make a difference in the world. Tia?
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. Like he said, I am Tia Johnson. I can't believe I have to go after Mark. Mark, you should have did, like, wait a minute. It's a lot of pressure on me after that. Thank you so much for showing up. Thank you so much for everyone for your support. Like he said, my name is Tia Johnson. I am the CEO, and I'm, learning that new role of Fresh Bloom Bins. Part of my story is I thought it was a cool idea. One day, my son, I charged him with the task of cleaning out the trash bins. And he said, of course, like with all the teenage attitude that you can get, don't nobody want to clean out no stinky trash can. And you have to know my son, because that's my that's my impression of him. And I'm like, you're right. Nobody wants to do that. What I didn't know is what I was getting myself into. So I'm going to share my screen. If you guys can see it, give me like a thumbs up. Okay, cool beans. I'll jump right into this. If I could, okay. So what are we talking about? Like dirty trash cans. As you can imagine, you can put pretty much anything in your trash bin. I often joke and say it's the missing class, trash. In my other business, I started a business teaching girls personal finance. And I joke, besides finance, I think we should have probably had a class in trash. Over the last couple of days, you kind of heard some of the different scenarios that gave me like aha moments, right? When you hear China stop taking certain recyclables, when you hear about the different opportunities in the public housing space. So here I am, this girl with just all of the hope and belief that there's ability to make money and do good in the world, trying to find my mark. And I really thought it would be in the education space. But like was mentioned before, when you see something, you can't unsee it, right? Like, so when we started cleaning trash cans, I was hustling and bustling. And I was able to get a contract to clean the 300-gallon containers that you see in the photo. These are actual photos that we've taken in the Linden, the South Side, and Franklinton area. One of the first tasks that was given to me was, Tia, you can't go anywhere without getting the support of the community. So even though I thought this was a cool idea and it was like a no-brainer, I found myself in a very unique situation, where when I was in certain communities, I was told, this isn't for us. You need to take this out to the suburb. Why would you want to clean the trash cans when there's so much trash around the area? It was the first time I ever got my feelings hurt, like in a presentation when I was talking about this. And they kept saying, it's not personal, it's not personal. I'm like, it's personal, it's my business, right? Like, but I had to take a moment and reflect and kind of go back to, why did I start business, right? Like there's a very good book that I wrote by Simon Sinek called Start With Why. And the reason I got started on the path to entrepreneurship was really key. One, there was some very painful points in my life that I was just unhappy with, right? Like I was like, I can't keep living this way. Two, I had adopted a new mindset of gratitude and growth, right? Like, okay, you are not happy where you're at, but what could you do to start changing what things look like for you? And once I asked myself those hard questions, I really wanted to shift the narrative about what Fresh Bloom Bins could be and what Fresh Bloom Bins is right now. So right now, I'm building an enterprise. That means I have to go find my customer and ask what's the answer? Yes, right? Like Steve Grossman mentioned, find my customer that can say yes. But in the meantime, what could I do to challenge the status quo? What could I do to help impact the lives of others? And then the other thing is just 21st century living. When we think about trash, it's been done the exact same way for a very long time. These ideas around recycling, we all know to recycle our water bottles, right? Like, but I can still see my neighbor put their water bottles in the Kroger bag to put in recycle bin, right? Like they know to recycle that bottle. How can we start to really begin to educate people where they receive it? So Mark, you really kind of highlighted this for me. I had to realize, what business am I in? Besides the trash cleaning business, I am in this environmental space where we impact these other things. And the things that I kind of talk to my team about is we protect law. What is that? Land, air, and water. The things that we learned about protecting the land is everything that Mark already presented. So I'm not going to like re-divulge that information, but it's really all the trash, everything that's going around. How is it that what we do impact that? The quality of life, right? Your air. When you go into these communities and it's trash everywhere, the odors everywhere, nobody wants to live in a community where it's filled with just, I think just poor quality of life. Dr. Robert Bolin, which I totally like didn't know who he was until recently, he said, tell me your zip code and I can tell you how healthy you are. And that hit home, right? When I come back to my home, I don't have the experience that I have when I'm out in the communities that I'm helping trying to and clean up. There was one place where there was almost like a graveyard of like liquor bottles where I'm like, who put this in the front yard? I am frustrated with them. I am angry at the whole situation, thinking like, what would make you want to do that? And it's like, okay, wait, you have to understand some things just aren't important to others. How do you not necessarily become frustrated with that and find out what are their pain points? And I think what I got from my conversations with doing that legwork is people wanted me to hire within the community. Hire within the community, be able to impact them where they can make a fair wage. And now you can get their attention, right? Like you can't necessarily go and say, change your behavior, change your behavior, change your behavior without giving some kind of give. The other thing is, how do you have the level of coolness to something, right? Like good ideas have to be cool. And oftentimes when we're in the community, people are just fascinated about this idea. I think everyone always say like, why didn't I come up with that? Or how did you come up with that? Or that's a really cool business idea. Like, man, trash cans are nasty. No one wants to really clean those. And the truth of the matter is we don't. And if we find a problem, we can create a solution. And then it was really connecting it with the bigger why. Why did I have to do that? Like you said, the money. With the city, we did get to run that pilot program. And what we found is that, yeah, there was a cool idea, but if we didn't have the immediate pain points that the residents were highlighting, they didn't think that it would be something that would really benefit the residents, or the residents wouldn't continue to have it, right? Like, well, Tia, you know, the community is complaining about the illegal dumping. They're complaining about the trash. How can what you do really impact that? So I was like, okay, well, let me go and connect with the experts. So I got a Arlie on my team. I got a Brilla on my team. And I started to realize, okay, if I can connect Fresh Bloom Bins with the bigger picture, then I would be able to have the impact that I wanted to have. And I don't know if you guys had a chance to see this or not. So I'm just going to give a clip. It's going to run as I continue the conversation about what it looks like and what it is that we do. So right now, when we go, I don't know, can you guys hear it okay? Hear me still? Okay. So right now, our customer that we do have is the city of Columbus. We go and we clean their containers on site. What we found is that they don't have the team available to actually go and clean these containers on a consistent basis. So they bring us in at a reasonable rate to go and clean and handle that. And he doesn't have to take his staff off task of their primary duties. We also go to waste haulers like Rumpke, and we go and we clean their containers. what they're finding is the exact thing that a lot of people are talking about is they don't necessarily have the labor force that wants to do it. And their process is very manual. So right now, imagine being in like a car wash bay area, somebody's with a power hose, power washing this trash can. It's not your ideal dream job. So we were able to come in and ask questions. What is it that you need? How can we help? We have something that we think of as value. How do you see it? And how can we mesh these ideas to bring it together? So with Fresh Bloom Bins, the process is pretty simple. Once we get to a container, we do an inspection, we find out, okay, what is it that we need to do? What we learned is some of the key points of where a lot of people complain about the things you have to touch. So when you're thinking about getting your trash can clean, you're thinking, man, I got to touch this thing. I don't know if my neighbor put dog poop in it or whatever the case is, right? Like, I don't do these things, or I might bag my trash. But whatever the case is, we're going and we're looking and saying, okay, the lids need to be clean. That's a pretty important part. The handle needs to be clean. And then with haulers, they want the can to kind of feel like a brand new toter when someone gets it. The idea is that someone to get this container, it might have a scuff on it, but it's clean, it's fresh, and it's amazing in a residential space. They can't believe that they can actually have a clean trash can. It kind of blows people's mind about how we are able to do what we do, and we have an equipment to minimize some of the manual labor. So I hope you guys have an idea of, like what it is that we do. And then I'm just going to take a quick moment to say, do you have any questions so far?
Tia, regarding, I know you're working with the city of Columbus, but let's say me as a homeowner, and I live in Slate Ridge, yeah, that's where I live. So what if I, just as an individual, I don't want to get involved with what Columbus is face. If I wanted to have you come out to clean my trash bins, do you do that on an individual basis, or does it have to be the entire neighborhood that signs up?
So that's a tricky question. As much as I'm in the trash cleaning business, I'm in the logistic business. So ideally, when I started this concept, yes, that was the goal. We would go and we would canvass neighborhoods, your HOAs, multifamily units, and offer the trash bin cleaning service. I did launch this business in the middle of COVID, so I had to pivot. Where could I find the immediate impact to keep the business thriving and growing? So we do eventually want to see ourselves going in that direction, where we are offering it to individuals on a community basis. Ideally, you want to have at least 50 people in the community to sign up for the trash bin cleaning for it to make sense, like the cost effectiveness and logistics of it all. We tried that. I have one guy in Westerville, awesome client, right? But it's not like your happy-go-lucky moment to get the team ready to go out and clean one toter. So our goal is to how do we now show the community that this has real impact? And that's, I think, one of the things that we're looking into, working with the Ohio Recycling Coalition and other organizations to see where's really the bottom line, where is the need for the community, how can we be an added value, and where does this all make sense with the recycling initiative.
What are your expansion plans? I know we talked, I know Abrilla's talked to you about that she has, someone that's doing something similar in, I don't know if it's her home state or not, but let's just say you want to open this up like Mark is trying to do with the Leaf Burrito. What do you see yourself and your business in the next 5 years?
Awesome question. Where I see myself in the business in the next 5 years is dominating, honestly. I think as a CEO, what I've come to grow into is being the person who's asking the right questions and connecting to build other leaders. You ultimately will have what I call my unicorns. And I'll tell you the story about the unicorns later. As a company, we have a very similar model to what Mark described is there's an entrepreneurship opportunity if that's where you are, or there's an employment opportunity. So in this journey, we found you're going to find one or two people. There are people who are comfortable with getting up, doing the job, getting the job done right, and going home. And that's totally awesome. There's other people that can pick up the skills that you've been able to present and have their own savviness to give it their own fresh flavor. And our goal is that we are able to make the blueprint. This is how you get the contracts. This is how we, satisfy the customer service needs. This is the end product. You can expand this anywhere you go. So just like Mark talked about before, is you can drop this in North Carolina, you can drop this in New York, you can drop this, especially in the warmer climates, and you can actually have a thriving business because trash odor isn't going anywhere. Dirty trash cans, I don't care how much you eliminate, you're always going to have some sort of trash, and people simply don't want to deal with that. So that would be our end game, is that it would not necessarily be a franchise model. It would be something where you can get the equipment, build your business, and build the lifestyle of your choice.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Tia, I put something in the chat for you, and I sent you a direct message to the CEO, George Hunyadi, who's the CEO of Innovative Organics. He does a lot of commercial food waste pickup. I don't know if you've already talked to him, but that's someone I know that would definitely have an interest in that service.
Oh, Snapples. Let's see. Okay. Yes, I have not talked with him, but definitely open to that line of communication. Those are going to be your idea target clients. So when you're building this out, who would you want to do business with? Anybody who's in the composting space, anybody who's in that food space, your large chains, like restaurants, Kroger's, where that it's just a bunch of rodents running around. They're trying to deal with that issue, the trash, all of those things that play a role in how this business is a business. And kind of piggying off of that, anybody with a water hose can go and clean their trash can, right? That's the reality. What makes our business a business? Let's see here. I thought I had a slide, but no, maybe not. I think it comes later on down the line. All right, so I'll go back up here. So after running that pilot program, we were able to come up with some key scenarios with the city. How can we have impact if the community isn't saying, hey, we want our trash can clean? One, they don't know that this is an option. So that's my biggest hurdle. But two, also saying, we know that you are already paying for certain things, right? So people need to have their bins replaced. They need to have them serviced. They have to call 311. All of this is a pipeline to what you're already paying for. So yeah, we're asking for some kind of investment into the service, but look what you're already wasting money on. Two, we can hire within the community. And this is the running joke I always say, like, when you live with my grandmother, you can be outside and I don't care if somebody's on the street doing something, right? Like, she can be like, hey, go get your butt in the house, or your mom wouldn't do that, right? Like, when you hire within the community, there's a level of accountability that comes along with that, where if you're responsible for cleaning that trash can, you're not about to let little Johnny just do whatever, because on Monday morning, you're going to have to go out and that's going to be your primary goal. Now there's this initiative and incentive. The other thing is we want to increase recycling, but we also have to increase the education. And when people are busy and living in survival mode, how do you do that, right? Like, yeah, you want them to participate, and some might want to participate, but I got these kids, I got these bills. Listen, that's last on my list. Now, if they are hired from the community, you're solving that immediate pain point. Right now, they have something like, okay, well, at work, I learned this, right? Like, we went through this training, kind of how I'm asking my team to join this conversation to get your juices flowing about everyday activities that you're already doing and how you can possibly shift those everyday activities. And now you have a slow impact, right? You won't see this huge impact right away, but that's what happens over time. And then the collaboration. So I couldn't do this by myself. And I was like, okay, who's already in this space and what would make sense for Fresh Bloom Bins to collaborate? So of course I have Arlie and I have the Steves of the world and some other amazing mentors who looked at this concept and said, okay, this makes sense. One, it's a good idea, but two, it also makes sense to the sustainability. Since even being working with the waste haulers, the circular economy conversation. Once that toter goes out, it's expected to have a lifeline about 10 years. Once it comes back, it can be broken down. The plastic is reused, the axle is reused, the wheels are reused. And now you have this whole idea of how you can actually continue to keep things out of the landfill. So that way you have the conversation around circular economy. I didn't know that was a language prior to getting into Fresh Bloom Bins. I want to be able to take these ideas and concepts. My pastor once told me, you can't have an old church because it's a dying church, and you can't have a young church because it's a lost church, right? Like, so you got to have these pipelines of individuals. And for me, I feel like I'm working with a generation that kind of led the way to help mold and guide me. But I also have to lean back and pull people forward to be part of the conversation in order for this to grow. And those key collaborations just came from my personal life, my personal experience. I feel like there have been men in my life that have done decades in prison. They were entrepreneurs in their own right. They might not have had the savviness, they might have had a legitimate business, but we're all learning and growing. The goal is that we take these individuals and give them to an opportunity to be part of something that says you can have a business that provides the lifestyle that you choose based on the entrepreneur skills you already have. But let's legalize it, right? Like, let's take this concept and make it where we're impacting the community. Nobody should feel like I deserve to live in a dirty community.
True.
Right? Like, we're also saying this is new, this is fascinating, right? Like, trash can cleaning isn't going anywhere. It will continue to be part of the conversation as people look at the level of cleanliness on restaurants, hotels. I mean, we're the only company here in Columbus that offers dumpster cleaning. All of these other organizations are looking for ways to really up the level of cleaning. The water that we use, we can say we're EPA compliant. So when you are pouring the bleach down your container or in your trash bin, you're throwing that down a storm drain. We now understand, I didn't know before, again, this is impacting our drinking water. So why are we in business? One, we don't use as much water as you would with your water hose. So we're way more efficient. Two, we're respecting the environment where we're taking the gray water, industrial water, and we're properly disposing that at the treatment plant. And three, we're connecting the community to say, let's be part of the bigger picture. Let's take an idea that maybe started off as a cool idea and make it the initiative and the incentive to the end goal. So I came up with this campaign for Swaco, recycle right, get your bins white. So my recycle right, get your bins white campaign was basically saying, I've been on this journey of growth and leadership and all these other things. And one of those things I found is make it easy. Like Mark said, like if you can make it easy for people to understand something, they're more likely to change. Two, you help with an immediate pain point. So we can create these jobs with recycle coaches. And these are individuals, again, from the community that speaks the language of the community, that can identify with the community to say, hey, I know you're probably not used to doing this, but here's an initiative. I know you don't want to clean that dirty trash can. Little Johnny didn't threw his lunch in there, or last night's dinner, or your neighbor didn't put a dirty diaper in there. we'll offer you a trash cleaning service. In exchange, you take this information and you start to apply it. So one thing I learned is that when they collect these garbage and recycling, they're taking that and they're dumping it, and they know how much they have, right? Like they measure the tons to be able to charge the municipalities. Recycle Right, Get Your Bins Wiped is basically a calling and an action step that says, take these initiatives to start doing these small things. In exchange, you get something that's a right now incentive. What I have found is that a lot of people don't buy the message of save the planet. Again, I'm in survival mode. The planet's cool right now, Tia, right? Like if something bad to happen tomorrow, that's when we really try to panic and take action steps. So we also found that there's a need for an instant education. If you are, these blue containers were basically sat out in communities with no education or very little. And if it was an education, it was geared to individuals who already understood the language. So if you are in the environmental space and you're putting stuff together, sometimes we forget you're putting this out into communities and asking them to change their behavior. And they haven't heard of circular economy. Now, if you break it down in a way that makes sense, like Abrilla talked about yesterday, we used the butter totes for Tupperware before it became, something to keep something in. Like we were probably already doing it. It was just in our own way, in our own language. And we're saying, hey, how does it impact me? The attitude basically was, Tia, you need to take this to, suburban areas, where I'm saying, well, okay, if they're already doing it, why don't they get rewarded for doing it? Hey, job well done. Oftentimes the squeaky wheel gets the oil. If you're already doing something right, be rewarded for that. Right now, we promote this as a service that's $25 a month. You can get your trash can clean, but we're a value-based business. So if we're able to get one community, like a municipality like Dublin or New Albany, to buy into it, we can lower that cost and we can increase the amount of participation. So now you get community buy-in, you get to create more jobs that impacts our bigger picture why, which is, again, hiring those citizens that are coming home to be able to create either an employment opportunity or an entrepreneurship. The aspiring or half-hearted people, right? Like they're on the cuff, like they might recycle their water bottles, but they put them in the Kroger bag, and their intention was good. If we can, again, give them incentive to say, hey, you're already doing it. I want to reward you for that. But in the meantime, there's the little subtle changes that I'm going to ask you to make. Could you not do this? And could you do a little bit more of this? That's going to give the small community that gets a lot of the attention with the trash and the legal dumping, the incentive to be able to actually be part of something. Hey, we were able to do this with these communities. Now look at the impact that we're having. So before I go any further, I'm going to ask again. I know I can kind of talk. I'm very good at that. Does anybody have any questions? I'm going to check the chat. It's hard for me to check the chat at the same time. Let's see. Okay.
There's no
Yes.
questions right now, I don't think.
Okay. Yeah, the labor cost for washing the bins by hand, it was basically temp workers. So they were going through their labor force. It was a question in the chat. They were going through their labor force pretty intensely. Like they kind of described it as scenarios like, I'm going to take a cigarette break and then they'll leave, right? Like it wasn't like something that they were like sticking around for. And because they were going through that, they weren't able to kind of meet the needs of that role. And then they were just facing some other challenges as well. So
I just wanted something you might want to give to your potential people that want to clean their own trash bins using a hose and letting it run off into the drainage system, the sewer systems. Years ago, when I was with the Department of Natural Resources, we had a litter law enforcement program. And one of the things that people could get fined for was washing their cars. That's polluting your groundwater because it runs into the sewage system and that goes to the wastewater treatment system. So you're dumping toxins, which some of the chemicals that you use to wash cars with and clean your bins, it's actually against the law if it drains into the draining system. So I just want, that's one of the things you could use to convince people they have to use your service, Tia.
Yes. So we are looking at areas like Westerville where there's this heartfelt community about the Scioto River, and some other areas that's really close to water.
Right.
As an idea client, Clintonville, they have a rodent issue that they've been trying to help get rid of. So we do have some areas that we feel like we can start with those pocket of communities and then allow it to grow. And really pushing the idea of, again, the sanitation, nobody wants to deal with a dirty trash can. Yeah, you might be paying an upfront cost, but in the long term, you're going to be saving money as
Okay.
well with the municipalities. Let's see here. So I think I kind of talked about these as well. The horrible smell, the rats. We use a peppermint spray to help with the deterrent of rats and rodents. And like Arlie said, though, I had to do a lot of research on this water pollution because that's where you have to make the connection between the land, air, and water. There's actually a lot of things that after talking with the EPA that were like aha moments for me as an entrepreneur. I think Mark did an excellent job of talking about, looking at what's going on right now and saying, okay, how can the business help solve some of the problems? What are some of the complaints on the community side? What are some of the things that city council or even President Biden are saying, hey, we need to actually look at this with maybe a microscope lens versus, this bird's eye view, and how fresh bloom bins can really be part of that solution. So I hope, based on this presentation, it kind of gave you an idea and a big picture, and then on the ground level of what our end goal is. Yes, we know that dirty trash cans, nobody wants to deal with them, but if we implement this business and we do it the right way, we will not only just create jobs, we'll create clean and healthier environments, and ultimately be able to grow as a business, which I want to do.
Okay.